Hi, so this is section 3 of a series of 7. So I'm glad you're back again, and now we're going to go into more of the action items and really start nailing down what needs to be executed on. So we talked a little bit about who you're going to do the party with. So now you need to start thinking about who you're going to have co-host the party with you. In the beginning, that could just be friends that wants to be on the flyer and get involved a little bit, and they give you that help. And as you grow and get bigger, you can start inviting co-hosts in that have their own communities. Like, for instance, the Latin group in San Francisco that I tied into, or the Persian group, or the Mexican group, or the Russian group. So you heard me talk about all these different groups that I started collaborating with, where I produced the whole event and they got to ride off of the whole wave and get to benefit from it economically as well. So that's one of the things you want to start thinking about early on in your planning, and when you start taking action on these things. Then, of course, you want to have an idea of the attendance, how many people will be there. And all these other things, little pieces, needs to be put together first, so you have an idea on how many people can help you push for the party in terms of promotion. And so as you start doing these events, you start getting a feel for that. But you can never promote enough, that's for sure. So you really need to have an idea about what you're doing with the attendance and what that goal is going to be. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to scroll up here. And that, of course, ties into the venue's capacity. And will it look full? Yeah, like I said earlier, you never want to have a venue that holds 2,000 or 3,000 and you have 500 people show up. That's a disaster waiting to happen if you do that. So, and then, of course, you're thinking about the structure. So that also ties in when you work with a co-host. Do you want to have a separate Latin room? Do you want to have a separate Persian room? Have a separate 70s and 80s room, for example, or European music? Or do you switch it in the middle of the party? I tend to like the format where 70s and 80s room, that stays the 70s and 80s room, and the Latin room stays the Latin room. So then it's a little easier to manage, and it's also more exclusive that way. So you want to think about that. And also for each of these rooms, what is the main attraction? Who's your main DJ? Do you have a warm-up DJ? Or is that the one and the same? In the beginning, I suggest it's the same. And you have a DJ that everyone will be happy with, like this type of music and everything. So those are the kind of things you'll feel your way into as you go along. And why have more rooms? Because it attracts more people, and even people that like European music might also like Latin music, and the ones that like Persian music might also like European music. So there's all these intermixes, and you got to find a mix that works for you. And for us, it usually was 70s and 80s room, European music, Latin room very often, and or a Persian room. So it wasn't always a Latin room, but so we switched that in and out. So that seemed to be a very good formula. And you'll start doing these things more and more systematically as you start learning your crowd. Okay. Do you have any additional entertainment in the event? Do you have samba dancers? Touched a little on that earlier. Do you have drummers? Do you have a saxophonist? Do you have these people that are mingling in with the crowd? How do you take it over the top, and how can you make the invitation and the excitement around the party build around something like that? You may have a really, really good DJ, for example. These things can be very expensive sometimes if you go after the really world-class DJs. That's not where we wanted to go, but it can be done, okay? Then you also need to be very much aware of your promotional timeline. How are you going to promote it? When do you start promoting it? And when do you start selling the ticket sales strategy? So you have a cheaper ticket earlier on for people that commit earlier on, and then you raise the price as you go along, and then there's cash at the door, which will always be at the premium level. Then people will be willing to pay more, and that's something you need to be aware of. And you start kind of understanding how many percentages will be paying at the door. So how many people they have to check in. We usually found that it was around 25 to 35% that paid cash at the door. So, but that didn't always work out that way, but that's what we were planning for as we started learning. So that's just to kind of give you a gauge. And then obviously people that you sign up with your event, meaning even co-hosts and DJs and entertainers, you have a contract in place for them, what they're going to get paid, what the deal is, from when they need to be there and show up and be on time. All of these things to me need to be organized. And you want to make sure that a DJ, for example, doesn't show up late. I remember a couple of times that happened for our events. It was like, oh my God, the party can't start without the DJ. Luckily, one of my partners at the time was also a DJ, so we could put some music on and get something going, but that was not what was on the flyer and anything like that. So you want to make sure they're leaving early. I mean, you need to learn who you're working with, who you can count on. So that's a little bit of the first section here. We're going on to the next one. There's a lot of details in this one, but it's important to talk you through it so you kind of get a sense of what's going on. So sponsorship opportunities, those things you need to line up in advance, and you also want to collect money in advance, which you heard me say in other videos as well. So what type of sponsor? Is it a liquor sponsor, a beer sponsor? Is it a food sponsor? Is it so one time we had a solarium, where you can go and get a tan, a sponsor, also clothing sponsors, and that would tie into then a fashion show very often. And we even had a lady made fake fur coats, so we had a fashion show with that. I ended up getting a beautiful coat. So sometimes there's a barter like that. You don't get money per se, but you get products. So, and another time I got Helly Hansen like a sailing jacket. And then we did a fashion show with the Scandinavian girls, because Helly Hansen is Scandinavian, right? And they got some spoils, and we promoted that all through the community. So then revenue collection. You always want to collect that money up front from those sponsors, not afterwards. Okay, so that's very, very important. But you need to be very clear what you're going to do for them. Are you going to have an image, a link? Where's the link going? What's the slogan or the logo and everything? All of that needs to be handed then off to your designer, so they get on the flyers and in the email and everything. So there's quite a bit of coordination, but you'll get good at that. And as long as you have a checklist that you follow, you can easily execute on it. So this is the stuff that I'll obviously help you with. Then what kind of PR stunts are you going to do? Are you going to do the 20 by 20? 20 by 20 means, here's in short, I have all the videos on that, but invite 20 people or 20 of your close friends over to your house. They all have a list of 20 people each that they call and say, hey, Alf's having a party in 4 weeks or 6 weeks. Are you coming? Here's the invitation. So you've given them then the write-up in the text message that they can send right out. And then you create the momentum. Guess what? 400 people right there. Bam. And that's another way to help you create momentum. Are you having a sponsor that have a limousine company? Can you barter with the limousine? So you take the limousine out with 15, 20 people. You go promote to different clubs and different places about your party. And you, obviously, I handpicked the most beautiful girls I had on my list and 4 or 5 guys. And we would hit the streets on a Friday night or a Saturday night promoting. And we may put a big banner on the limousine and everything like that, so the whole town would know about our event. So a lot of little things like that, and also dropping off flyers at hair salons where our target market be, restaurants, clothing stores, shoe stores, all kinds of stuff that we did, and we developed relationships. So those are really important channels. And of course, social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. We would market it all over the place. Okay, then you need to decide who does what in your team. So one person of your team might be good at production, another one be good at logistics. So you need to clarify the different responsibilities that they had, and that actually fell into place very very naturally. And who's good at negotiating contracts? Are you good at sitting down with the venues? Are you good at negotiating with the entertainment? Do you have contacts in it that can give them a break? Obviously, you know who's best at what, or maybe you're good together. So all of these things you'll find out as you go along. Do you do it on the phone? Do you do it in person? All these things. I suggest very often doing many of these things in person. Definitely when it comes to the venues and stuff like that. The talents, depending on if the first time you're working with them, I suggest in person somehow, and maybe even on a video like you and I are on right now. And then you need to, when your event grows, you need to have a bigger and bigger security team. Sometimes we have 40, 50 people working on our security, meaning entrances, and also inside to make sure everything was under control, which it was, knock on wood. But you want to be prepared for that in case, knock on wood, a fight would ensue or something like that. You want to break it up right away and get rid of those people very quickly. Luckily, that almost never happened in any of my events. It was 1 or 2 fights over the years, but that was just very unusual. Some people came in that shouldn't have been there, and that can happen. So it's very important, the security guard that you start working with, he or she, usually a he, would know your crowd. They recognize the people, and they're polite. They know how to handle other people coming up. Everyone needs, that's because that's your first point of contact for many people that comes to the venue for the first time or to your party for the first time. It's very important to have a person that can take the heat, is calm, but also carries some authority, and also is big. It's probably not a bad thing to have. You want to have a big, robust person at your door that dresses really nice and knows how to talk to people. Very important. But then, of course, I'm not going to get into super details here, but as you have a security people of 40, 50 people, you need to have a walkthrough of the venues at least a week or 2 in advance. And also the day of the event, make sure that we have gone through all the weak links and where do we see people can sneak in and all of that. Those are very important things as you learn to go through that. And that's also, I can get into a lot more details about that. So that's the vulnerabilities of the thing. And of course, how do you handle your guest list, your VIP list? Because your main guy at the door with the clicker can't always do the VIP list at the same time too. In the beginning when you're small, yes, but not as you grow. Then you need to have a separate person doing that. And then, of course, how do you check people in? I'm going to get to that here in a little bit because that's more important than you think. So those are some of the things that we need to cover on this one. And then the last points here is basically you need to check the IDs. But guess what? If you're letting people into a venue that there's usually 21 and over to get in, if you let somebody in that's 20 or 19 and they get in and they buy a drink, the whole place could lose their liquor license and not only shut down the party that night. So you want to have the venue itself have a person that checks the ID. That way you don't or you're not left with the responsibility for that. I've mentioned that a few times, but it's very important and many people neglect that. And then guess what? All hell breaks loose. So how do you collect the money? Are you doing online charging? Like Eventbrite is one company I've used many, many times. You can use PayPal, but they have a little bit higher fees. Eventbrite is more akin to that because they also collect emails and phone numbers. We don't get their payment information, which we don't even want to have, but now we get an email list as well that we build from that, obviously, and that's going to be correct. And how do you handle the cash? One of the golden rules I have, if there's 2 people doing a party, none of us can go up alone and take any money out of the cash register. The main cashiers, or all the cashiers, if there's many, knows that's the case. And then it needs to be signed off. We go there in together because we don't want to have the opportunity for a conflict on that. And especially at the end of the night, we pick up the money together, the cash together. The stuff that's happened online, we don't need to worry about that at this point. But that sets you up for avoiding conflicts and misunderstandings. So suddenly you do think some money is left or disappeared, so to speak. And you don't want to even have that situation. So we handle that very, very well always. And that's always is done with a lot of respect. Now, with regards to having people to pay to get in, that takes time. So if you have, let's say you have 5,000 people that's coming to a party and 30% of them are going to be checked in by cash. Well, now you need to time how much does it take for them to show the ID, make sure the ID, or check that they're on the list. Yes, you can go over here. Now they need to take out cash. Let's say it's $75 to get in. They come with $100 bill. Now they got to get $25 back. How long does that take? And now they need to put the wristband on. Put the wristband on. Now they go over here and they get checked in again to verify. That might take a minute and a half or even 2 or 3 minutes per person. Okay, now how many cashier points do you need for that? That's what you need to calculate. And you want to make sure that you have maybe multiple entrances. Are there any bottlenecks? Is there one line going in or should there be 2 lines or 3 or 4 or different entry points? All these things you got to think about, and that's what I have massive experience in, just organizing those things. And you'll get good at that as you start going through my system, but Those are the things you really need to think of. And I always analyzed in my own head, what do I need to break even? Not that I was looking at not making money, but I just wanted to make sure, okay, how much do I collect up front? How much cash do I have available to this? And when do I pay the people that work for me? All of this, you need to have cash flow. We need to have access to the cash. If you don't, you're out of business. So those are the kind of things that you need to really start understanding and planning for. So those are very important. And I always would set a profit target. I would sit down and think, okay, this party is looking really good. We have a great venue, entertainment, we have co-hosts. Here's how much you're going to get from the co-host. Usually they would bring in so much sales, blah, blah, blah. And all of these things I started putting down on a little spreadsheet. Okay, where am I at? What am I shooting for here? What's the potential? What's the upside? What's the break even? What's the downside? I always wanted to know that, so that I didn't overspend on things and did things that wasn't financially sound. Okay, so, and do you hit your number? It is actually one. I guess I just had a natural propensity to do this, right? Because I could kind of map out ahead of time what I would make. And especially after a party, I could see exactly kind of at the crowd how many people would be there. And I know how many people had prepaid. I know how many paid. And my partner would sometimes ask me, what do you think we're making? And I would miss maybe by a few $100s or maybe $1,000. And that was very, very close. So anyway, so hopefully all of this is giving you a better idea of what's going on in the mind of an event planner, a party planner, a nightclub organizer. This is what I did for 22 plus years. I'm here to share all my knowledge with you. Hopefully you like some of the stuff you hear. There will be more videos prior to this and after this. So click on the video down below. Should be a link over there. And I release one every couple of weeks or so. And maybe once a week. And but feel free to play the whole series, and we combine them all together. And I appreciate you being here, and get ready for the next one. I'll comment below, and if you want to talk to me in person, sorry, I'm dragging it out. If you want to talk to me in person, click on the link in the description as well. You can ask me any question. Okay, thank you so much, and high five to you for showing up. Take care. See ya. Bye.